Hey guys, Cloudy here. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about my 70-hour immersion challenge. Now, what is a 70-hour immersion challenge? I spoke a little bit about it in my last update video, which was my 4th month update. It's also on my channel. If you're interested, you can check it out. And I hinted basically that I had spent 70 hours of my time in 1 week with the Korean language. So, what does that even look like? Well, for the bulk of it, I have my stats right here. The bulk of it was passive listening, which basically means I was listening while I was waking up and getting ready for work, in between tasks I need to do at home, and largely at work. So I work at a place where I can basically listen to anything I want in my headphones, like I have right here. I just keep it in so that I can always listen to something. I could listen to that almost the entire time while I'm at work with very few interruptions. So let's break that down. 70 hours in 1 week. How did that pan out? 47 hours and 54 minutes was spent passive listening. And that's actually quite a lot. If you spend 47 hours in 1 week listening to a language, you're definitely going to feel very connected to it at the very least. I think that passive listening can really help fill up the hours. And if you have a lot of empty space in your day, normally this would be time spent listening to podcasts or just music. But if you're doing the mass immersion approach, it's really easy to shift those habits over to listening to Korean. So yeah, 47 hours and 54 minutes passive listening. And then we move on to my active time spent with the language. Now, this was really interesting. I spent a lot of my time reading because I'm really trying to push my level forward with reading, and I feel like I'm at a good level to do that. So I spent 10 hours and 55 minutes in 1 week just reading. And most of that was the Yonsei reader, and a little bit was this book I have, Korean Stories for Language Learners. And that one's pretty good. It's published by Tuttle. If you like folk stories, it can be fun. For some people, it bores them to death. Me, I don't really mind. It's words to me, so it's still semi-interesting even. And it's just fun to be able to read through something and feel like you're learning and being able to read it. So that's fun. The next thing we come to is the active watching. And I spent 3 hours and 42 minutes actively watching shows. And for me, that means watching mostly web dramas, but I throw it on and I watch and I read the subtitles as I'm listening to it. And I try to block out all the other distractions. I close down the windows, my other Chrome windows, and I just actively watch that and just try to become completely immersed in it and really get myself engaged with that. So 3 hours and 45 minutes roughly spent with that. The next item on the list is video games. So during my Twitch stream, I play video games in Korean and I read the cards and everything, and I try to figure out how to play the game basically by reading these cards and memorizing the vocabulary from it. And I actively spent 3 hours and 20 minutes engaging with the video game, learning the Korean vocabulary from these games. And then 2 hours and 15 minutes of grammar study. And for me, that basically means reading through a lesson, reading through Talk to Me in Korean or Korean Grammar in Use for about 25 minutes a day is what it turned out to be, 20 to 25 minutes a day on most of the days. So yeah, 2 hours and 15 minutes of grammar. The final thing to add is the Anki time. And I spent almost exactly 2 hours on Anki. And basically the amount of time that I include for Anki is just the time it took me to rep. So out of an entire week, only 2 hours of that was spent with Anki. Out of the 70 hours and 6 minutes, 2 of those were spent on Anki. So out of the 70 hours, 68% of the time was spent passively listening, and the 32% of my time of that week was spent actively watching. And 15% of my total time was spent reading. So that's a lot of hours, right? I had to use a couple of tricks to be able to get it to work, and part of that was something I talked about in the update video. I started using a timer and timing out my tasks that I wanted to accomplish and setting a timer for 20 minutes, basically doing a Pomodoro type method where I'd go 20 minutes working on this, 20 minutes working on that, and 20 minutes working on this. The other thing that you end up having to do when you want to squeeze in as many hours as possible is to find all the little moments where you're not otherwise doing anything and you can give your attention to, and you can really rack up the passive hours listening. You know, I got a full 8 hours of time that wasn't even while I was at work, passive listening. And that's things like travel time, showering, doing the laundry, cooking, cleaning. All of these little things, they add up through the day. So even if you can't listen at work, I think you can fit in a lot of time just getting familiar with the language, passive listening. So what was that really like for me? I feel like 70 hours is a lot of time. And I really do feel like it helped kind of push my level ahead a little bit, closer to maybe what I was more comfortable with, or wishing it would be, or hoping it would be. It really felt like it helped kind of gel things together. When you spend that much concentrated time with the language in 1 week, it tends to work out in your favor, I think. Was it worth it though? Yeah, actually. It was completely worth it. It took a little bit of sacrifice. I had to give up a couple of things here and there that I would have willingly done. Long term, I don't think that it's healthy to try to squeeze in absolutely everything you can and shut down the rest of your life to do MIA. That's not my style. I like to engage with other things, and I like to have a healthy balance. So I don't think that it's sustainable for long term. That's basically the 70-hour challenge in a nutshell. It's not something that I'm gonna do every week. I think my hours more realistically are not going to look like 70-hour thing. And even the 47 hours of passive that I got, that would cut down much more on a normal week for me. I did discover new ways to fit more time into my schedule, basically. It felt like I was kind of producing it out of nowhere, but I'm gonna move forward with these skills and hopefully find a little bit better balance, and definitely spend a lot of time reading. But yeah, there's a little insight into my 70-hour immersion challenge. And if you're looking for a way to kind of jumpstart your own immersion routine, I think setting a reasonable goal and trying to hit that mark is totally doable, and can really help you find every moment out of your day. You don't have to do 70 hours. Maybe you do a 20-hour immersion challenge and you focus on your active time, or something more attainable for your lifestyle and your choices for studying language. But yeah, I hope this was a little insightful into what I'm doing, and I will catch you guys later.